Anthrax Island. The year is 1942. The Second World War is in full swing and Britain has found itself victorious in the battle for air superiority over its territory. As a result, an assault using conventional methods by the German armed forces is becoming less feasible by the day. Aware of this, the British military begins to turn its focus outward, exploring unconventional methods that could be utilized to bring the war to a swift Allied victory. One such avenue explored was the use of biological weaponry. In particular, the weaponization of Bacillus anthracis, the bacteria responsible for anthrax. Military strategists explored the possibility of loading this bacterium into bombs which could be dropped onto population centers in order to spread disease and cripple the German war machine. To analyze whether the use of anthrax in this way was feasible, the Ministry of Defence purchased an uninhabited island off of the coast of Scotland. This island, named Gruinard Island, was to act as a testing ground. A particularly virulent strain of the bacteria named Volum 14578 was developed for the experiments. 80 sheep were specifically transported to the island for the experiments. They were to be infected with the bacterium by the detonation of anthrax-containing munitions. Within days of exposure, many of the sheep contracted anthrax and began to die, confirming the scientists' suspicions that anthrax could be developed into an effective biological weapon. If bombs containing anthrax were dropped on German cities, the pathogen would spread rapidly, leaving the area uninhabitable for decades. Whilst the experimentation on Gruinard could be considered a success, decontamination of the area, however, proved to be incredibly difficult. The bodies of the sheep were incinerated, which destroyed some of the contamination, but much of the soil in the area was still laced with the deadly pathogen. Anthrax spores are notoriously durable and resisted all of the decontamination efforts of the time. When the war ended in 1945, with the decontamination effort having failed, the island was largely abandoned by the government and access by the general public was prohibited. Operation Dark Harvest. Remaining in obscurity for the next few decades, in 1981 the narrative regarding the island shifted drastically when newspapers began receiving reports that civilian microbiologists had landed upon the island and collected soil samples. These messages contained the heading, Operation Dark Harvest, and demanded the government clean up the island. The group threatened to leave the soil samples in locations that would elicit the rapid loss of indifference in the government and bring about the rapid education of the public. It wasn't long before the samples began to appear on the mainland. First, a sealed container was located outside of the military research facility Porton Down. Located in the south of England, this facility specializes in biological research and contributed to the original contamination of the island. The sample was tested and confirmed to contain anthrax. Next, a sample was located in Blackpool during a conference by the Conservative political party. This soil, thankfully, did not contain anthrax but was of a similar composition to that found on the island. Finally, in 1986 a decontamination effort began with the chemical formaldehyde was sprayed onto the ground and the most contaminated soil was removed. A new flock of sheep were transported to the island. They remained healthy. In 1990, 5 decades after testing began, the island was declared decontaminated. It is now considered safe. It is not known whether any further samples collected prior to the decontamination exist. If so, it is likely that the anthrax within them will have retained its ability to infect humans. Stay safe everyone, but most of all stay curious.